So we have Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe. This is an article written on the Epoch Times by Lee Harding. Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe says he will not concede to any request by Prime Minister Justin Trudeau to have a digital ID be a condition of augmented federal healthcare funding. The announcement was made in a response letter from Moe to citizens who inquired with his office regarding the aspect of upcoming Canada Health Transfer negotiations in a meeting with Trudeau and other premiers on February 7th, which would take place in Ottawa. The government of Saskatchewan is not creating a digital ID, nor will we accept any requirements for the creation of a digital ID tied to healthcare funding. Wrote Moe. The government of Saskatchewan will not share any personal and medical information with the federal government. This information is protected under the Health Information Protection Act and will remain so. However, the government of Saskatchewan may share already publicly available healthcare statistics, including the number of physicians in Saskatchewan and surgical wait times, if requested by any party member, including the federal government. So that was on February 3rd. The meeting was on the 7th, so it seems like Scott Moe was just being a little preemptive here. Just getting on the side of the conservative voice, pushing back against that government control, right? February 10th. Let's take a look at this article here as well. So February 10th, so 3 days after the health transfer meetings took place in Ottawa, Alberta Premier Danielle Smith says she agrees with Saskatchewan Premier Scott Moe that the private health information of the people of their provinces should be protected. I agree and stand firmly with Premier Moe in protecting Albertans' private health information, Smith said in her Twitter post on February 10th. I will ensure that any agreements with the federal government do not include the sharing of any such personal information with the feds or a third party. Smith's post was in reaction to a letter issued by Moe, February 3rd, regarding the current healthcare negotiations between the provinces and the federal government, in which he said his government wouldn't agree to the creation of a digital ID. Is that a meet? So we have Scott Moe, days before the actual meeting takes place. $196 billion Health Canada transfer meeting in Ottawa, February 7th, where all the premiers would meet with Justin Trudeau and his party to discuss how they could get funding back up to where it needs to be, which previously was 32% and is now down to 22%. And the thing is, he hits most in this article is not being strong-armed by the Trudeau government. So are the provincial leaders being pressured, perhaps, to commit to a fully digitized data system with the federal government? And then after Scott Moe, we had Danielle Smith 7 days later almost saying what, but not quite. She didn't quite use the words digital ID, did she? Maybe that was a good thing for her. Because if we look at this video real quick, we'll see that Alberta basically has a digital ID already in play and has been there for like 3 years. Take a look.
Life is a whole lot busier than it used to be. Being online means we're no longer bound by office hours, lineups, and paper-heavy processes. Now we have the freedom to choose where and when we access different services, including those offered by government. My Alberta Digital ID is a free account that lets you verify your identity online so you can securely access the government services you need while making the most of your free time. So what could you do with a verified digital ID? Well, a lot. Connect to government services anytime, anywhere. View your health records, access federal services, or apply for permits to support your small business, all while taking care of the kids and enjoying some fresh air. You could also apply for benefits, student loans, and apprenticeships. Or maybe you just need to grab a park pass for your next epic adventure. The list goes on, as new services are being added all the time. From income support to municipal services, there's no limit to what can be offered online when you can securely confirm your identity. Using a single login and any computer, tablet, or smartphone, you always have access at your fingertips. With My Alberta Digital ID, your personal data is secure and private. This means your information remains safe and protected when you need to access tax files and health records or deal with legal matters. So, how do you get your own verified digital ID? It's simple. Go to account.alberta.ca. All you need is an email address for a basic account and a valid Alberta driver's license or ID card for a verified digital ID. It's totally free and can be completed online, all in the comfort of your own home. My Alberta Digital ID, your single verified online identity. Safe, secure, and brought to you by the Government of Alberta.
So roughly 2 years ago, see, the funny thing is, you got to think who was in power then. It was the UCP, Jason Kenney, right? So this would have been planned, produced, and edited roughly 3 years ago. And I think it's clear we are ready for this idea in Alberta. We already kind of have something loose in Alberta like that, right? So I don't know why I should be out putting this Me Too article when Canada, well, Alberta's clearly ready, poised to go. After the cough, cough lockdowns, that passport gave them most of the data they need about who the good and who the bad behaviors were. And they know what to expect. So who do you trust? They say one thing, we're not for that, but they're sitting on something completely different, as we just saw in that video. And the last 20 seconds of that video, it's kind of creepy. All little icons popped up, your phone, this app, they know where you all are. Middle of the night. Doesn't matter. Why are we even talking about digital ID? I think there's some dangers there, like this video here.
In a recent survey that was done by the Digital Identity and Authentication Council of Canada, over half of the respondents did not understand the concept of a digital ID. So a digital ID, at least in its infancy, would basically be having an online digital format for your ID, that you could use to open bank accounts, to prove your age, to buy lottery tickets, for example, to do things that you would typically maybe use a driver's license or a passport for. But the issue with that is that, for one, it can be easily expanded to include other things. So it could include medical records and other things being stored in the same online space. It could also, as Rick suggested, there's many governments and central banks that are talking about and actively moving towards digital currencies. So it could be a digital universe online where basically all of your important information is centralized. And there's multiple issues with that. One, there's the possibility for abuse. And we know right now, and we've seen in China, for example, they have a social credit system. And the social credit system is kind of like a credit score, but it covers comprehensively every area of your life. And the social credit system in China is not one monolithic system, although they've pledged to move that way. It's a patchwork of systems. But essentially what it does is, in the same way that a credit score will knock points off you if you don't pay your credit card bills on time, this system here will take points off if they catch you jaywalking with their multitude of cameras that are everywhere, if you misbehave on a train, if you rent too many videos, if you do other activities that they deem to be counter to the public good. And these are real examples that you can read about online. If your credit score gets too low, you can be prevented from riding the bus, going to school at certain locations, even buying plane tickets. There was a famous example of a Chinese civil rights lawyer who was often speaking up against the abuses of the Chinese Communist government, who was unable to buy a plane ticket because his score was so low. And so there is certainly a risk for abuse. We don't want the government to have the ability to turn a switch and immediately be able to turn you off from participating in modern society. We saw some of that quite quickly happen during the trucker convoy, where those who were involved in the trucker convoy had their accounts shut down and they had various other things happen to them. At least right now, we have a court system that, obviously should be providing checks and balances. In the future, the courts will still be there, but if everything is centralized into one particular venue, it provides a perfect recipe for tyranny. And even in this particular case where someone had their bank account shut down, Their friends could still loan them cash and things like this. But imagine if all of your cash was digital, your ID was online, and you were shut out from the system. Maybe you participated in a rally that the government didn't like, or maybe you were speaking up against the government, and they shut you off. And in a cashless society, your friend, even though he wants to give you money, would not have the ability to transfer digital currency to you because you, as John Smith, an outsider of the system, would be completely cut off.
Crazy. It's not a conspiracy theory when it comes to pass, right? Right off the government website. This is the information pertaining to what Scott Moe initially said. The government is proposing to further support through the CHT as follows: an immediate unconditional $2 billion top-up to address immediate pressures on the healthcare system, especially in pediatric hospitals, emergency rooms, and surgical and diagnostic backups. I'm totally not against hospitals being built. To access their share of federal funding, including the guaranteed 5% growth top-up payments to the CHT for the next 5 years, provincial and territorial governments are asked to commit to improve how health information is shared, collected, used, and reported to Canadians to promote greater transparency on results and to help manage public health emergencies. Well, I see we already have a foundation for managing those public health emergencies with the COVID passport, all the information and data they gathered then. So I guess you're ready for the next one to roll out, huh? Last paragraph, this one I'm most interested in. Building on the work by federal, provincial, and territorial officials over the past several years, 2016, on health data and digital strategies. Provinces and territories will also be asked to agree to adopt common standards and policies related to data. Digital ID, it's right there. Canadians should be able to access their own health information and benefit from it being shared between health workers across health settings and across jurisdictions. There are a lot of parents out there with small children worried about those kids' futures. I mean, can my child just not grow up innocently like the days of old? Planning a future, what school are you going to go to, what are you going to be when you grow up? I mean, the fear and the worry now that their leaders are making decisions that are against them and not for them. It's crazy. I mean, I'm all for technology. I love tech. Absolutely love tech. I mean, it's technology, internet, satellites, whatever else, that's caused the gospel of Jesus Christ to reach all the ends of the earth. But when that tech begins to be used by our rulers to control us and ultimately take away those freedoms we just mentioned, I'm not interested. And if you think the idea of a totalitarian government and social credit system being fully enforced by our supreme leader is far-fetched, I got news for you. See, way back, since winning office in late October 2015, he's been basically in bed with the World Economic Forum, touting Canada's readiness, fourth industrial revolution. Canada's ready. That's our leader, telling the world that we're ready. Watch this video.
Thank you, Professor Schwab, for your warm welcome and for bringing this impressive group world. Today, we are gathered here to contemplate whether we are in the stages of the fourth industrial revolution about to begin. What a breathtaking possibility that is. Steam power changed the world utterly. So did electricity, and more recently, computers. And now we may be on the cusp of change equal in magnitude and of a far swifter pace. New technology is always dazzling, but we don't want technology simply because it is dazzling. We want it, create it, and support it because it improves people's lives.
We know the fourth industrial revolution leans heavily on biometrics, right? It's not enough just to track you. They want to know what your body's doing inside. And it's going to be necessary to be part of this. It's clear the federal government has an agenda to roll out a digital ID. And we could see that total strong arm tactic laid out for these premiers. Although they never really came out and said it like that. They didn't say that was part of the whole Canada Health Transfer negotiations that took place on the 7th, but it's all written out there. And those premiers were coming out. But not only that, the scary part is just how far along big banks and corporations are along with this. They're mostly all on board. And I know here's one that we use regularly, Interact. Watch this clip.
Yeah, so thanks for that question, Aaron. At Interact, we're all about providing digital end-to-end user experiences for citizens. And, we create and manage a ubiquitous network across Canada that's inclusive. And as we drive more and more user experiences that are adjacent to payments, it's incredibly important for digital ID to be the underpinning for that. So if you think about the future of the digital economy for Canada, digital ID will be the underpinning. When you think about the construct of an open banking ecosystem where you can have aggregate information from all of your financial services companies that you're dealing with, and have the concept of a dashboard, so your financial position at any given time of the day. These are all these use cases require the underpinning of digital ID. When you think of payments modernization and the ability to have real-time transaction availability, again, we need to know who's on the other side and who is transacting on our network. It's also important to point out that we're not developing a network so that we know who is actually transacting. It's all about providing the ability for anonymous capabilities, so that there's no traceability in some cases, but there is the ability to trace in the case when bad behavior happens. So it's all about that balance of privacy, security, and availability to bring these use cases to life. So that's kind of where we're looking at why we're investing in digital ID. It's important for the future of Canada, and it's important for the future of Canadians.
Bad behavior. Why be concerned about Interact, the largest debit payment processor in the country? He said bad behavior. I'm referencing when our Prime Minister authorized banks to freeze accounts during that greatly publicized truck derby, where people tried to stand against the idea of a federal government forcing them to do things that were not proven, right? Where was the proof? Anyways, I don't want to go down that road. I just want to say that ultimately these digital IDs lead to this type of control. They've already showed it. They've showed their hand. They've showed that they're willing to use it. And I believe this is entry-level stuff that they got now. Stuff they want to roll out, they got to get the legislation passed. Here we go. Let's get digital IDs rolled out. Let's get with this healthcare top-up. They just slide it in. We can clearly see the stuff going on behind the scenes. I mean, they, even for showing your face there, and that they were able to facially track you, your bank account was frozen. You showed support on social media, your bank account was frozen. Let alone you got arrested there. Destruction, cash gone. Listen. What we have with the digital ID is an appetizer to a social credit buffet that's being prepared and rolled out served to us right before our eyes. And the funny thing is, it's the same dialogue. You hear him here, our Prime Minister, in those videos, echoing this guy, leader of the World Economic Forum.
In terms of the governance, yes, actually, this notion to integrate young leaders is part of the World Economic Forum since many years. And I have to say, when I mention our names like Mrs. Merkel, even Vladimir Putin and so on, they all have been young global leaders of the World Economic Forum. But what we are very proud of now is the young generation, like Prime Minister Trudeau, President of Argentina and so on, is that we penetrate the cabinets. So yesterday I was at a reception for Prime Minister Trudeau.
Crazy, right? Touting what? He even said half of his cabinet. He was so pleased that they were here and then just, embracing the vision that what we need to be not adopting this stuff.
To assure our citizens that we're striking the right balance, Canada has created a digital charter. Canada's digital charter sets out principles to ensure that privacy is protected, data-driven innovation is human-centered, and Canadian organizations can lead the world in innovations that fully embrace the benefits of the digital economy. As an important step towards realizing the Charter, we have introduced new legislation to protect Canadians' personal information, examining new ways to protect a fair and competitive marketplace, and examining changes to copyright laws to balance the interests of creators, users, and platforms. Canadians must be able to trust that their personal information and that of their children is protected, that their data will not be misused, and that organizations operating in this space communicate in a simple and straightforward manner with their users. We want everyone to feel comfortable taking advantage of every opportunity as Canada leads the way into our digital world and future.
The book of Revelation says, in chapter 13, verse 16 and 17, "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save that he had the mark, or the number of the beast, or the number of his name." Listen, I'm not saying that this is the mark of the beast, but we are seeing the technologies that are making it easier for a one world global order to track everybody at the same time. We cannot deny that these technologies aren't heading in that direction, and that the Bible kind of references it in those verses I just read. That speaks of a worldwide system one day that will control the buying and selling of everyone. I think we're seeing the beginnings of it. And I don't think it's that far-fetched to think that they're not prepared to roll it out. Watch this clip. The very clothing you wear will be tracked. It's crazy, right? The very clothing. Look what it said. Billions of pieces will be ready in 3 years. So when everything is on a digital system or everything is controlled, they're going to only allow the textile companies who were on board with them and who are willing to put these chips in, that you're only allowed to purchase your currency, your central bank digital currency tied to your digital ID will only be allowed to buy those garments. That's crazy. And then they'll pass laws saying that what companies don't have to report the fact that there is a tracker in your shirt. Man, it's crazy. And all these things just are swept under the rug, hoping nobody knows what this is. Until one day, bang. Hey, we have a crisis. We need to roll these things out to protect everybody. And it's just not here. You know, here's a voice who maybe quite a few people know, Ron DeSantis, Florida governor, going on record against the digital ID and CBDCs. Take a look.
This is protecting your autonomy. This is protecting your freedom to make decisions.
Governor Ron DeSantis took aim at a new currency the Biden administration is exploring.
Are you interested in giving these economic central planners more power over our economy, more power over your daily life and your economic activity? And I answer that question, HE double hockey sticks. No, we cannot have that happening.
Last year, President Biden signed an executive order that could set the stage for a new national digital currency. But DeSantis says this method of financial transactions could be dangerous.
Cash is king. I mean, if you can hold it in your hand, you have power over that. The minute it's all digitized, somebody else is going to have control over that. And it's just a question of, are they going to let you live your life? Or are they going to decide to do things to circumvent what you want to do?
The Biden administration touts the idea as environmentally sustainable and a way to increase access to consumers who lack the means to join a traditional bank. DeSantis says this central bank digital currency would be an overreach.
Any way they can get into society to exercise their agenda, they will do it. So what the central bank digital currency is all about is surveilling Americans and controlling behavior of Americans.
DeSantis asked the Florida legislature to pass a preemptive block of the plan.
Today, I'm here to call on the legislature to pass legislation to expressly forbid the use of CBDC as money within Florida's Uniform Commercial Code. This will ensure that Florida continues to be a state that supports innovation in the financial sector through the market while protecting against government surveillance over your personal finances.
Listen, it may look bleak. The message I just heard from him sounds like he's pushing back and only stalling the inevitable. We're going to have another Wild West. This state adopts this, that state adopts that. This province is in for this, that province is in for that. Chaos. But remember, Jesus said in John 16:33, "In this world you will have tribulation, but remember, I have overcome the world." So have courage. Put your hope in the Lord. I mean, really. He is the greatest hope there is in this world that is ever growing darker around us. He promises a supernatural peace to keep you if you put your trust in him. Hey, I mean, do some more right-wing politicians get in power? Do they slow down these tentacles of this beast system that's just working its way across the earth? Solely governments who were strong and independent and had borders standing for freedom, for individuality, and all those things that contribute to a happy, healthy life, and the freedoms that we all love and embrace here. A lot of them are going woke. A lot of them are talking about global order, one single state, fourth economic revolution. We need a ruler. We need a reset. Let me remind you of this. All these men that you put your hope in, all these politicians telling lies, they will all pass away. But the Bible teaches of a kingdom that will endure forever. Put your hope and trust in the Lord. Embrace that peace to get through this mess. Peace, he offers it.